Hey guys, I'm John Madsen and welcome to today's training. Instead of a big introduction about how I played in the NFL, I'll save that for another time because I wanted to respect your time and keep this training to 20 minutes. As you can see on your screen, the title of today's training is the 3 steps for maximum performance on the high school football field. So let's get started. Who is this for? This is for all you parents out there who have a son who plays high school football who has a deep desire to succeed on the football field. And finally, if your son is frustrated by the lack of playing time, attention from coaches, or attention from college coaches, this training is definitely for you. And in the next 20 minutes, I'm going to show you how you can completely stop worrying about your son's playing time once and for all. And I'm going to show you what your son needs to do to dramatically increase his athletic ability, so his high school football coach has no choice but to put him on the field at all times. You're going to learn what your son needs to do if he has big dreams of playing football beyond high school and earning a college football scholarship. And you're going to learn why only 6% of high school football players play football after high school and why a huge percentage of my athletes earn the scholarships they've always dreamed of. And you're going to finally understand that the pain of limited playing time and the pain of living with a disappointed athlete and the damage to an athlete who has had his confidence ripped out of him by a coach can be eliminated completely. And my biggest promise to you is that you're going to receive my 3-step strategy to maximize your son's performance on the football field. And there's only one thing you need to know, and that's that there are 3 steps that your son must master if he is ever going to reach his goals on the football field, whether it be to get on the field or to be an all-state player or to earn a free education through the game of football. I'm going to teach you all these 3 steps today. But first, I'm going to tell you a little bit about who I am. Despite not having a single scholarship offer out of high school, I walked on 2 different times, once to Snow College and once to the University of Utah, and I ultimately played football in the National Football League. I played football and won a Fiesta Bowl championship under one of the best coaches in the history of college football, Coach Urban Meyer. And I reached my childhood dream of playing football in the National Football League and played for the Oakland Raiders and the Cleveland Browns. For the past 6 years, I've owned a gym specializing in helping athletes reach their dreams of playing sports in college and have made that dream a reality for hundreds of athletes and families. I have one of the top certifications in the world for enhancing speed and explosiveness through strength and conditioning. And today I'm on a mission to help as many athletes make and reach their goals on the field, in the classroom, and most importantly, as positive members in the communities. So here we go. Here's the 3 steps for maximum performance. Number 1, your son must look the part. Whether or not your son wants to see the playing field more or get recruited by college coaches, size or the quote eye test will be the first judgment for or against your son. I didn't get recruited because I look like this. You can see me on the side of the screen standing next to a red Ford Mustang when I was 16 years old. At one point in high school, I was 6'4" and 170 pounds soaking wet. I was so scrawny and weak that there wasn't a chance in hell that I would ever get a scholarship. In fact, as one of the weakest kids in the football weight training class, I decided to give up on football completely because I thought I was too small. I didn't play a single down of high school football. If you want to know the whole version of the story because it's long, just ask me sometime. Parents call me to complain about their coaches not playing their son year after year. And this season just ended and my phone's blowing up with parents who are telling me the same thing. And I have to be honest with you. 95% of the time I see their athlete for the first time and I know right away exactly what the coach was thinking. Your son simply does not have the size to be a force on the football field. You have to understand this. If you choose to ignore this core concept, it doesn't matter how talented your child is. If he doesn't do anything to change the fact that he weighs 160 pounds, he will continue to be overlooked year after year. If you can grasp this concept and you can help your athlete become the athlete who looks like he belongs, your son's whole high school career will drastically change, and it will also open doors in the recruiting world if that is his dream. The great news about this is that college football players have heights that range from 5'7" to 6'7". And while height is not a trainable quality and is the only athletic quality that is not trainable, weight and adding explosive muscle definitely is. In addition, you have to understand that if your son wants to play football beyond high school, he must fit the size profile of college athletes. Your son cannot play tight end if he's only 5'9" and isn't going to grow any taller. I would strongly advise him to play a position that is correlated to his height if college football is a goal. Hopefully we are crystal clear on that. A couple of years ago, I had the opportunity to coach Ben Bywater, who is just now going into his senior year of high school. As a sophomore, Ben was 6 feet tall or so, and he only weighed about 160 pounds. To say that he was scrawny and weak would be a complete understatement, and he'd be the first to tell you that. Looking the way he did, it didn't matter how talented or not talented he was. There wasn't a chance that he was going to get looked at if he didn't transform his body into a recruitable one. Like many of your sons, Ben had tremendous desire to get better, and his ultimate goal was to play football at his dream school, BYU. After putting in almost 2 years of work, Ben transformed into an athlete who finally looked the part. Going into his senior year, he is just over 6'2" and weighs over 210 pounds. And he has full ride scholarship offers from 4 or 5 different schools, including his dream school, BYU. In fact, he just verbally committed about a couple of months ago. All of this took place before his senior year even started. The total cost of attendance at BYU for an in-state student is $17,818 a year. And after 4 years of school, Ben's scholarship is worth $71,272 according to collegetuition.startclass. It's an amazing, amazing return on investment for Ben to be able to get his college education paid for. You guys have to remember, it will always start with size. And although we cannot train to make anybody taller, athletes can most definitely train to get bigger and stronger. This has to be the most important thing your son can do to make sure that he is never overlooked again. Step number 2, speed kills. Speed kills. You've heard the saying, and it could not be more true than in the world of high school and college football. If a player can't run, they simply cannot play. After an athlete's size profile, the single biggest factor in determining whether or not your son will enjoy success on the football field is whether or not he can run. It is no secret to you that speed is essential to your son's chances of dominating high school ball and playing football at the next level. What you might not understand, though, is that speed is a trainable athletic quality that most definitely can be enhanced. Most parents understand the need for speed. They just don't know where to get it because of gimmicky marketing and fraudulent speed trainers. The problem is that there are very few coaches amongst a slew of coaches who claim to be speed trainers that actually understand how to make someone faster. I continuously see athletes wasting their time with speed ladders, running with parachutes, endless cone drills, and other BS that not only isn't working, but is wasting precious time your athlete has to actually make a difference in his speed performance. So how do you increase speed? Well, here I'm going to give you 5 ways your athlete can increase his speed. Number 1, he has to increase his absolute strength. Now that absolute strength is the maximum amount of strength your athlete can perform. So if you're talking about weight room stuff, this is increasing a 1 to 3 rep max in the bench press, in the squat, in the deadlift, in the power clean, and other compound lifts like that. Very, very important. A stronger athlete, 95% of the time, is a faster athlete. Number 2, your athlete needs to increase his relative strength. That's his strength to body weight ratio and has everything to do with body composition. So with number 1, you're increasing your athlete's absolute strength. Number 2, the strength to body weight ratio becomes very important. Now that means that athletes have to pay very close attention to their body composition, because if you're talking about an athlete who's 6'2", 215 pounds, and you're comparing him to an athlete of the exact same size, 6'2", 215 pounds, and one athlete has 10% body fat and one athlete has 20% body fat, I'm telling you right now, 99% of the time, the athlete with 10% body fat is going to be faster and more explosive. So you have to make it a huge priority to increase the relative strength your athlete has. One of the best tests for this, honestly, and I tell kids this all the time, is go to a pull-up bar and see how many perfect pull-ups they can do. Now, if they're playing high school football and they can't do 10 strict pull-ups, they're either too weak or they have too much body fat on them. So although that's an upper body exercise, I know for a fact right away what kind of relative strength that athlete has by doing that one simple test. Number 3, your athlete needs to increase power and explosiveness. Power is the ability to generate force through the ground. So these things are all very important, but they have to be done in order. It's very hard for an athlete to work on power if he is extremely weak. So strength plays a huge part in the power department. And as athletes get stronger and as they move along on the athletic continuum to becoming more advanced athletes with really good relative strength and really good absolute strength, then it's very important that the workouts that they're doing are aimed and geared towards increasing the power with different exercises, with the correct rep schemes, the correct rest periods, so on and so forth. Number 4, this one gets overlooked all the time. If you want to sprint faster, sprint more often. And when you do this, a lot of high school coaches, when they're doing speed training, they combine speed training and conditioning. And those are two different things. So if you want to get faster, it's very important that you sprint at maximum capacity, 95% of intensity or more, and you get full recovery in between bouts. If you're not getting full recovery, you're doing conditioning, you're not getting faster, you're getting conditioned, and that's all good. But if you want to get faster, sprint more often and do so at maximum intensity and make sure you're fully recovered when you repeat the effort. And lastly, number 5, improve technique. Okay. The athletes can get faster when they do all the rest of this stuff. Then it's very important that we make sure that their stride length and stride frequency and arm swings and, relaxing their face and all the other sprinting mechanics, those are important. But if you do these out of order and you only pay attention to number 5 and you don't pay any attention to the first 3 things, then you're just doing your athlete a huge disservice and you're wasting a huge amount of time. Okay, on the flip side, 5 ways not to increase speed. Number 1, waste all your time using gimmicky equipment like speed ladders, bands, and parachutes. I'm telling you right now, if you have a high school athlete and he's running with a parachute, that you are wasting time or money or both, because there's not anybody on this training right now that should be running with a parachute. Number 2, waste all your time doing endless and crazy cone drills. Some cone drills have their place, most don't. Another thing I see all the time is athletes think that they're getting faster by doing hours and hours of cone drills. Well, what they're doing is getting better at those cone drills. They're not increasing their strength, their relative strength, and their power, which are the things that are going to make them faster. They're wasting their time on stuff they see on YouTube, Instagram, and other trainers doing, which is completely a waste of time. Number 3, they're putting time in the weight room without correct programming. It's not as simple as just lifting weights. Sets, reps, exercise order, exercise selection, and correct form are all extremely important in programming to make athletes faster. And so a lot of times athletes think they're going to the weight room and think they're doing things right, but there's very few people out there who are experts in training for speed and explosive power. And if you want your son to separate himself from the pack, if he didn't get enough playing time this year and he desperately wants to, go into next season faster and more athletic so he can get more playing time, then he's going to have to do things different than everybody else on his team, plain and simple. Number 4, poor nutritional habits. This leads to bad body composition. Okay. If your athlete doesn't care about what he's eating or he doesn't know how to eat for performance, then he's going to have poor body composition, and he's going to like we said in the other example, his body fat's going to be higher and he's not going to be as fast as other athletes. And number 5, Flip side of our other slide, poor technique, never working on stride length, frequency, and other sprint mechanics. So hopefully you got some value out of that and it gave you some ideas on what to do and what not to do. All right, here's a story. A perfect example of all this is an athlete I worked with since he was a sophomore in high school. Cody was playing receiver and safety at the time and weighed around 170 pounds. But his problem that he wasn't fast enough to play those positions at a Division I school, and he wanted to play Division I football. But I knew that he would be an extremely fast linebacker if we could continue to work on his speed and make him bigger. So going into his senior year, he was frustrated by the lack of interest from schools. So we put a plan in place to work on speed, strength, and size to show colleges at certain camps that he could be an explosive linebacker. We pumped 45 pounds of muscle onto him, and he was 6'2", 215 pounds when he attended the University of Utah Elite Football Camp. When they tested his 40 time, he was fast enough to play linebacker, and they saw that he fit the size profile too. They offered him a full ride scholarship on the spot. He's going into his redshirt sophomore season as we speak as one of the starting linebackers. The University of Utah's cost of attendance for resident is $22,328. After 4 years, this education would have cost $89,312. You can see on the field Cody wearing the University of Utah uniform, his dream school. He's living his dream right now. And you can see on the picture below a before and after picture of after he worked his butt off for 2 years and put on over 45 pounds of muscle to make his dream a reality. Step number 3, the final step to this training, ignition. Whether you think you can or you think you can't, you're right. It's one of my favorite quotes by Henry Ford. Over the past 6 years of training athletes in my gym in Salt Lake City, I have helped hundreds of athletes reach their dreams. When I started, it was my goal to help them get what they desired most. I knew that environment was important, but I didn't know how important. In one of my favorite books, The Talent Code, Daniel Coyle writes, quote, "We are often taught that talent begins with genetic gifts, that the talented are effortlessly able to perform feats that the rest of us just dream of. This is false. Talent begins with a brief, powerful encounters that spark motivation by linking your identity to a high-performing person or group. This is called ignition, and it consists of a tiny, world-shifting thought lighting up your unconscious mind. I could be them." Yes, my training program is on the cutting edge. Yes, I know how to make athletes bigger, faster, and stronger every single time. But my biggest strength is the ignition that was just discussed. Our athletes are surrounded by other athletes all over the state, just like them, who are doing great things and have big dreams. It is normal for them to see collegiate and professional athletes working out in the same place. Greatness becomes ingrained into their subconscious. If your athlete is not in the right environment, around people who believe in him and around mentors that can show him that his dreams are possible, he will never acquire the belief necessary to achieve his dreams. It will have never occurred to him that he was closer than he thought. It is a fact that when an athlete is in the right environment and they learn to believe in themselves, anything is possible. This one secret could be the biggest difference in your child earning a scholarship or playing his last football game in high school. One of my favorite stories is about an athlete I got to work with right when I opened my gym 6 years ago. 99% of the time, a parent comes in for the first time to enroll their athlete. But Braden was by himself. He attended the same high school I attended. He was almost 10 years behind me, and not many athletes go pro from my neighborhood, so he knew about me, read my story about me opening up my gym. My gym was a 35-minute drive from where Braden lived, and he didn't have a car. But there was a train that could pick him up a couple miles away from his house and drop him off about 7 to 8 miles from my gym. So he rode his bike to the train and then biked to my gym after he got off the train. And then he had to do the whole trip again after his workout was done to go back home. Braden was a wide receiver who had barely seen the field his senior year. He caught one pass and had 0 highlights. But somebody told him that I had never played high school football, which is true. And like I said before, it's a long story I'll save for another time. And that I had walked on to play at a small junior college called Snow. Braden connected with that story and told me he wanted to walk on to play for Snow as well. The problem was that Braden hadn't learned any of the secrets we previously discussed. He was 6'1", 145 pounds, and was one of the weakest seniors I had ever worked with. but his desire burned so bright. I could feel it. I get chills just thinking about how bad this kid wanted to prove he could do something nobody in the world thought he could do. Like Cody and Ben, Braden worked his butt off every single time to make every single day and had to make that incredible journey just to get there. Many of the times after his workout, before deciding to bike back, he would lay on the grass physically ill from the workout. Day after day, he got stronger though. Ultimately, I got Braden a tryout with 200 other athletes at Snow College, a perennial top 5 junior college in the nation. Braden went down and was the only wide receiver selected, and just like me, he walked on to play football. I couldn't have been more proud. But the story gets even better. Braden ended up receiving a scholarship to pay for his schooling, and after his sophomore year was finished, he received a full-ride scholarship at a Division II school where he got to live out his dream of playing college football, a dream that everybody else thought was impossible. Braden had his ignition lit because he found an association to me and my story that made him believe that he could do it too. This is my favorite example of this concept, but hundreds of other athletes I've worked with have reached their goals because they are surrounded by athletes who have already reached the college level. We create champions because our athletes are surrounded by champions. In the previous example, you have seen how much money our athletes have saved on the cost of college attendance. Think for a brief moment about Braden's situation. How much would it have cost him to never chase his dreams with that kind of dedication and tenacity? He learned the most valuable lesson of all, that if you believe in yourself, anything is possible. So today I promised you that I'd show you how you can completely stop worrying about your son's playing time once and for all. I promised that I'd show you what your son needs to do to dramatically increase his athletic ability so his high school coach has no choice but to put him on the playing field. And I promised that I'd show you what your son needs to do if he has big dreams of playing football beyond high school and earning a college football scholarship. And that you would learn why only 6% of high school football players play football after high school and why a huge percentage of my athletes earn the scholarship they've always dreamed of. And that you would finally understand that the pain of limited playing time, the pain of living with a disappointed athlete, and the damage to an athlete who has had his confidence ripped out of him by a coach can be completely eliminated. So here's what you need to do to win. Number one, you have to pass the eye test first. Your athlete has to become the athlete who stands out. Number two, it is a must to develop and train speed with a purpose. Number three, your athlete needs to ignite his unconscious by becoming the athlete he needs to become and surrounding himself with other champions. Confidence is king, and your athlete must always believe in himself. Learning and applying these 3 steps alone will put your son on the fast track to reaching his athletic dreams he's worked so hard for, and will end the frustration of limited playing time and limited exposure from college coaches. So now you have a choice. You jumped on this training for a reason. Football season has just ended. Many athletes had a good season and they're ready to push for the next level to play college football or opening up the recruiting doors. Other athletes are frustrated, completely frustrated by not seeing the field as much as they wanted, and they know they need to do something drastically different in order for them to succeed in the next year. So you can stay stuck and do what you've always done, or you can let me help you. I have set aside some time to talk to you about how you can apply these ideas to your personal situation with regards to your son's football future starting today. But I have to warn you though, this isn't for everybody. You, as a parent, have to be 100% committed to doing everything in your power to help support your athlete in his athletic journey. But you cannot want it more than your child wants it for himself. Your son must have incredible desire, commitment, and tenacity for me to even consider working with him. My program is not for football players who are just happy to wear their jersey on Friday nights. It is only for the ones who refuse to let their athletic dreams go without a fight. And I'm doing this because I know exactly what your son needs to do to reach the next level and the exact steps you should take to support his vision. We will figure out precisely where your son is currently at and what is absolutely necessary for him to do if he wishes to play college football. And if you want us to coach your athlete, and if we think it's a great fit, we may invite your son to become one of the new athletes we take on this month. So if that sounds like something you want to do or something you want to explore, just click below click below to request the application that we can look over and see if your son is a fit for our program. Thank you guys. I hope you got amazing insight into what it takes to become that athlete who wants to reach the next level, or that athlete who just desires to play more than he played this year. So thank you guys. I'll talk to you soon. Click below right under this video to request your application to talk to me. And if you request that application and you fill it out, that comes with a completely free trial for my gym. And so do that right now. Click the request the application, and we'll see you soon.